You've probably heard the story of how Japan was saved by a miracle. How twice, in 1274 and 1281, the gods sent a divine wind, the Kamikaze, to smash Kublai Khan's Mongol armada, one of the largest naval forces ever assembled at the time. It's a powerful story that became a cornerstone of Japan's identity. A nation invincible, protected by divine providence itself. And while powerful typhoons definitely played a huge part, the real story is, as always, a little more complex. But the most interesting question isn't just what happened, but what could have happened. After all, history isn't always decided by the weather. More often it comes down to logistics, tactics, and the sheer overwhelming numbers. So, what if the winds never came? What if that second, even bigger Mongol fleet made it to shore with nothing to stop it? What if the Mongol Empire, the largest land empire in history, actually conquered the land of the samurai? This is the story of how a change in the weather could have completely rewritten our world. The myth and the reality. To really get what could have been, we first need to understand what actually went down. By the late 13th century, Kublai Khan, grandson of Genghis, had done what his ancestors couldn't. He conquered all of China and established the Yuan dynasty. His empire was enormous, powerful, and always looking to expand. He saw Japan as a prize, a tributary state that refused to bow down. When his demands for submission were flat out ignored by the ruling Kamakura shogunate, he decided to take Japan by force. The first invasion in 1274 was a brutal wake-up call for the Japanese. A force of up to 40,000 men, mostly Chinese and Korean soldiers led by Mongol officers, landed at Hakata Bay, bringing tactics the samurai had never seen before. Samurai combat was traditionally about individual honor, about seeking a worthy opponent for a one-on-one duel. The Mongols fought like a terrifying, coordinated machine. They moved in tight formations using war drums to signal movements and unleashed weapons totally foreign to Japan, including gunpowder bombs that exploded with a deafening boom. The samurai defenders were pushed back hard, but the Mongol commanders, maybe getting nervous about their position and running low on supplies, pulled their troops back to the ships for the night. That's when a storm rolled in, battering the fleet and forcing a full retreat. Both sides learned a lesson. The Mongols knew they needed a much bigger army. The Japanese knew they had just barely dodged total destruction and started building massive stone walls along Hakata Bay, getting ready for round two. The point of divergence. Our timeline splits in the summer of 1281. In our history, Kublai Khan sent his second invasion force, a truly staggering armada. While historical numbers are debated, we're talking about something in the neighborhood of 4,400 ships and up to 142,000 men, though that number likely includes many non-combatants. For weeks, the Japanese defenders used their new walls to hold the invaders off, preventing any large-scale landing. The Mongol fleet was stuck, a massive floating city of soldiers just waiting in the bay, totally vulnerable. Then, on August 15th, a monster typhoon hit the legendary Kamikaze, which obliterated the Yuan fleet and ended the invasion for good. But in this timeline, there is no miracle. The August skies stay clear, the sea is calm. The full combined might of the Mongol fleets makes landfall at Hakata Bay. Those stone walls are impressive, but they can't hold back a force this overwhelming forever. The real invasion of Japan has begun. The fall of the samurai. The fight for Japan would be a clash between two totally different ways of war. The samurai were masters of the blade and the bow, ferocious individual fighters, but they were not ready for the Mongols' brutal, disciplined warfare. Mongol cavalry archers would have rained down clouds of arrows from their powerful composite bows, completely refusing to engage in honorable duels. Their infantry, packed in tight shield formations, would advance step by step, using explosives to break Japanese lines and create pure terror. Once the coastal defenses fell, that would only be the beginning. With a secure base on the island of Kyushu, the Mongol army would push inland. Their strategy wasn't about noble combat, it was about total subjugation. Any city that resisted would be burned to the ground. The people would face the same horrifying treatment the Mongols gave to their other conquests. Mass slaughter as a punishment for defiance. The Kamakura shogunate, Japan's military government, would have sent its best samurai from all over the country to fight back. But they'd be fighting an enemy that didn't follow any of their rules. Japan's mountains might have been good for guerrilla warfare, but the Mongols were masters of logistics and laying siege to castles. One by one, Japanese strongholds would fall. The samurai class, the warrior elite that had defined Japan for centuries, would be shattered against a wall of relentless, impersonal warfare. The shogun would be toppled and the emperor would become a powerless puppet, assuming he was even allowed to live. Japan, the nation that had never been successfully invaded, would fall under the rule of the Great Khan. ADD subscribe button here. The conquest is complete. Japan is now just another province in the massive Mongol Empire. And this is where our new world really starts to get interesting. If you're enjoying this trip into a world that could have been, go ahead and subscribe to the channel and ring that notification bell. The ripple effects. A new Japan, with Japan conquered, it would be changed forever. The islands would be absorbed into the Yuan dynasty as a new province. The entire Japanese feudal structure would be upended, with Mongol governors called darugachi installed to rule. The samurai class, as a powerful force, would be broken. While the Mongols sometimes co-opted local elites in other lands, the power of the samurai would have been systematically stripped away, with survivors disarmed, executed, or folded into the lowest ranks of the Mongol army. Japanese culture would face an existential threat. The Mongols often used administrators from other conquered territories to run their provinces, just to keep local loyalties from getting too strong. That means Japan could have been run by Chinese, Korean, or maybe even Persian officials, kicking off a tidal wave of foreign influence. But Mongol rule wasn't just about destruction, it was also about connection. Japan was on the brink of a long period of self-imposed isolation. Instead, it would be dragged, kicking and screaming, into the largest trade network on Earth, the Pax Mongolica. Chinese and Central Asian technology, art and ideas would pour into the country. The art of the swordsmith might have given way to the science of the gunsmith, as Mongol gunpowder weapons could have become the new standard of warfare centuries before Europeans arrived. Japan would be open to the world ahead of schedule, but it would have to trade its independence and its very identity for it. The ripple effects. A new Asia. A Mongol-conquered Japan doesn't just change Japan, it throws the whole power dynamic of Asia out of whack. For Kublai Khan, conquering Japan was an obsession. Succeeding would have cemented his legacy and strengthened his Yuan dynasty, maybe even helping it last longer. Even more terrifying, a pacified Japan would become a staging ground for more Mongol invasions. Kublai Khan had already tried to invade Vietnam and had his eyes on Java and other parts of Southeast Asia. With Japan as a secure naval base in the north, those campaigns could have been relaunched with even more force. The divine wind that saved Japan may have also, indirectly, saved kingdoms thousands of miles to the south. The failure of the invasions in our timeline showed the world that there were limits to Mongol power. It proved that even the biggest empire could be stopped by fierce resistance and challenging geography. A successful conquest would have sent the exact opposite message, that no one, not even an island nation protected by the sea, was safe from the Khan. The ripple effects. A new world. When you zoom out even further, the long-term changes are just staggering. A Japan plugged into a Mongol-Eurasian system would never become the nation we know today. The Sengoku Jidai, the warring states period that produced legends like Oda Nobunaga and Tokugawa Ieyasu, would almost certainly never happen. That means no Tokugawa shogunate, and no 250-year period of isolation that so deeply shaped Japanese culture. Without that isolation, there's no opening of Japan by Commodore Perry in the 1800s. There's no Meiji Restoration, where Japan raced to modernize to compete with the West. And without that, there's no rising Imperial Japan in the early 20th century. The entire Pacific theater of World War II becomes completely unrecognizable. The very DNA of modern global culture is changed. No samurai films, no anime, no video games from giants like Nintendo. The huge but subtle cultural footprint of Japan on the world is just gone. And here's the most mind-bending thought of all. The Mongol Empire was known for creating exchange across its vast lands. With a base in Japan looking out on the Pacific, is it even possible that Mongol-sponsored ships, not European ones, might have been the first from the Old World to reach the Americas? It's highly speculative, and there's no evidence they had the technology for it, but the possibility alone is staggering. In the end, what we're left with is an alternate world defined by profound loss. A vibrant and deeply influential culture is shattered and absorbed into a bigger empire. The brutal efficiency of the Mongol war machine wins the day, but in doing so, it erases a future that would give so much to the world. The story of the Mongol invasions of Japan isn't just a story about a storm. It's a story about a hinge point in history, a moment where everything could have gone a different way. The failure of those invasions ensured that Japan would walk its own unique path, creating a culture of incredible complexity and strength. The divine winds might be a legend, but their legacy is very real. They allowed Japan to remain Japan, a fluke of the weather that didn't just save an island but preserved a future for the entire world that would have been unthinkably different without it.